action UFC.
So, my name's John Cordy. I've been thinking, are we maybe sleeping on the Podgo a bit? Not, literally you or I, but, the metaphorical we, if you could think of such a thing. So anyway, the Podgo is the least powerful of all of the Hx products. You'll know on the channel that I'm a big fan of the Hx Stomp, and I'm a big fan of the daddy of them all, the big Helix. But I've been thinking, what about this Podgo thing? So it's sort of faded a little bit into the background with the Hx Stomp XL, which essentially is quite a similar kind of experience to the Podgo, although with a smaller screen. But we've got a similar kind of foot switching layout and a similar kind of experience in that way. So I was thinking, where does this leave the Podgo? But I also think, well, there's a certain experience to the Podgo which is unlike any of the other Helix products. And part of that is that, yes, you've got slightly less power, so it's going to feel roughly like an Hx Stomp in terms of what you can dial in, you know, the amount of blocks you can use. You've got one extra block, but you've only really got kind of 4 blocks which you can change to be anything you want. I've done other videos on this sort of stuff, but what we do have is the ability to switch between these modes. So at the moment, let's change the view a sec, you'll see that I can switch these blocks. So, you know, I could switch on or off this delay. Or I could switch on compressor boost, or I can jump over to snapshot mode and I can have things then I can have things set out to be however I want, really. So I've got a clean like rhythm, that same tone, but with that delay added. Then on A I've got a rhythm, and then the one. So also within each of those I can go in, I can take out. With the foot switching modes, what I can do is I can go in and I can take out certain aspects. Because I've got it on snapshot recall, when I come back out and let's put all of these things in a different kind of place, when I go back to snapshot 1, you'll see that it turns those blocks back to what they would have been. So I've got 4 snapshots, but also the ability to go in and kind of make these changes on the fly, which is really useful. And then go back and, you know, jump back to my kind of preset-ish mode where I've got snapshots for rhythm, lead, clean with a delay, and just clean. So I'm finding that quite powerful. I think I'm going to try and gig it this evening, possibly, or I'll take the Helix as well, but I want to try and gig this because I think it's quite a cool approach. It's a bit more minimal than the Hx Stomp or the Helix, and I think it might encourage some kind of different thinking. You're keeping things quite simple. It's 1 amp, 1 cab, an EQ, you know, a compressor, a drive, 1 delay and 1 reverb is generally what you've got going on. And of course you've got a volume pedal and a wah that are always there as well. I think it's encouraging me to be a bit more minimal in my approach to the patch and be a bit more utilitarian. You don't have the ability to go too crazy because you've only got those 9 blocks. And I know that sounds like a silly thing to say, given like a few years ago that would still have been quite powerful. But now, you know, there's plenty of other stuff which could do this sort of thing. If you want to know how you change this mode, so we go into global settings, preferences, and snapshot edits we want to set to discard. So you've got recall and you've got discard. If you recall, basically that'll mean that the edits that you make to a snapshot, like I was just showing you, so if you turned off delay on snapshot A, when you come back to snapshot A, that delay will be whatever it was last on, so it'll be off if you turned it off. If you discard, then you basically preserve those snapshots so that anytime you come to snapshot A, B, C or D, it'll be exactly what you expected, regardless of whether you've come into pedalboard mode and made some changes on the fly or during the gig. You know, you might have turned on the compressor and then, you know, you want to come back to that. So I find that really useful. I'll try and gig it tonight and see if I can report back on what I found. Also, don't forget we've got a global EQ if we need it here, and so that's useful. And the other cool thing is that we've got the tap and the tuner, which is kind of essential, I think, for gigging. And one of the things that I found a little bit tricky about gigging the Hx Stomp, not having that tap tuner always there. So we've got a few extra buttons. It's cheaper than an Hx Stomp. It's cheaper than the Hx Stomp XL. The only thing I think which would get a little bit closer to this experience in the Helix world and give you all of that full Helix stuff would be the Helix LT, and then you'd have kind of parallel pass and obviously dual processing power of the Hx Stomp. So that might be a better bet for your money, but I think the Podgo might be worth another little look. I'll try gigging it today and I'll kind of report back on it.